Hi, it's Grandma Karen. You have thread on your bobbin. Now let's thread the machine and the bobbin. Today we're talking about the Bernina 135. Before we begin, let's talk safety. If I work near the needle, I do one of the following. I move my foot pedal away from my foot, or I unplug the foot pedal, or I turn off my machine. Your presser foot needs to be in the up position before you begin threading the top of the machine. You have seen this stitch note before. The presser foot must be in the up position when threading the top of the machine to ensure the thread goes into the tension discs. We will do a little experiment with this at the end of the lesson to help you understand. Put your spool of thread on the proper spool pin, vertical pin for stack thread, horizontal pin for cross-wound thread. Review lesson 7 if you've forgotten what the two types of thread and spool pins are. I'll put my cross-wound thread on this horizontal spool pin with the correct spool cap. And if I'm going to use the stack thread, I'll use my vertical spool pin, and it's going to thread the same way, so we're just going to do the one. So from the spool, I'm going to go to this rear thread guide right here. I'm going to hold my thread between my two fingers, go under it, and just pull up, and it kind of clicks in place. Then I put this thread into the groove on top of the machine right there. And here's a close-up of the threading of the top of the machine. The pink arrow is pointing to the tension discs inside your machine. The thread continues in this groove between the tension discs and down the front of the machine, like that. And then it goes under this thread guide, which has the check spring in it. And then it comes back up the left groove. And as you pull the thread up, you have to hug the right side of the machine of this groove up here next to this plate. And as you pull it down, it's going to go into the take-up lever. If you don't do that right, if you don't hug the right side of that groove, two things can happen. The thread may not go over this take-up lever where the thread needs to go. This will make terrible stitches. The other thing that can happen is that the thread goes into the take-up lever the wrong way and it gets stuck and it will not move. It's complicated to get the thread out if it gets stuck. So it's important to pull the thread along this right side of the metal plate when coming up to the top of the groove and go all the way to the back before coming back down. Now you're going to go through this bottom thread guide down here, this big one. So you're going to hold your thread between your two hands and you're just going to lay it on top of that and then pull it down on the right side. And that's how easy that one is to thread. Here's a close-up with the thread drawn with a marker. The dashed lines show where the thread is under the check spring guide at the bottom of the metal plate. The thread goes down and then up and then down. Then it goes behind the large guide that is shown with the red arrow. Here's a close-up of the take-up lever and the metal plate. Remember, the take-up lever, we learned about it in lesson 5. The take-up lever needs to be in its highest or up position when we thread the top of the machine. The take-up lever is automatically in this position when you turn on the machine. If it is not correct, push the needle up button. You may need to push it 2 times to be in the up position. Or turn the hand wheel towards you until it is in the up position. The thread now goes into a thread guide on the needle bar. The arrow shows that the thread goes into the left side of the guide. You will need scissors to cut the thread before threading the needle. There are many types of scissors. The scissors in the left photo are fabric cutting scissors. Notice that all of these have a piece of yarn tied to the handle. You should not cut thread or paper or do crafts with fabric scissors. Everyone in my house knows they're not supposed to use these. Cutting paper or thread with fabric scissors makes them dull and then they won't cut fabric. They are expensive, so do not use them to cut thread. The middle photo shows small embroidery and school scissors. If they are sharp, they work well for cutting thread. The right photo has standard scissors in it. Great for cutting paper and for doing crafts. Some of them will also be good for cutting threads. The left photo shows cutting the thread on the diagonal. The right photo is of the needle. I wet my finger with my mouth. You could get it wet in the sink if this seems too gross to you. Then you wet the back of the eye of the needle. The spit or water on the back of the needle helps it draw the thread into the needle. Hold the thread with your thumb and index finger. Have about 1/2 inch of thread sticking out. Not too much or the thread droops down. Push the thread through the eye of the needle. Sometimes it is easier to see the eye if the presser foot is on. It gives a silver or white background behind the eye. As the thread goes into the eye, Continue to push your thumb and finger to the back of the needle and grab hold of the thread. Pull out about 4 to 6 inches of thread. The thread should not be wrapped around the needle like the photo on the left. This happens sometimes. Pull the thread down a little and let it go back into the correct position so it is coming straight off the needle, like the photo on the right. The thread tail should be coming from the back of the eye of the needle. There are other ways to thread a needle. We'll talk about those in our next lesson. Now, watch me thread the needle. I'm going to cut the thread on the diagonal, like this. And then I'm going to put the needle bar down like I did here, and so you can see it better. And I'm going to put my presser foot down. We're past the tension, so we can put it down. And I'm going to take this between my 2 fingers, and I'm going to put it on the left side of this dial and just pull in. There's also one on the right side. You can do it that way if you want. Then to do the needle, I'm going to have to put the needle up. And if I need to pull on this a little bit more, I might have to pull my presser foot up a little bit. I'm going to wet the back of my needle. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the thread between my finger and my thumb, and I'm going to go into the hole. And as the thread goes into the hole, I'm going to take my fingers and pull them back and pull that thread out a little bit till I can grab it with my other hand. And this is twisted around, so I'm just going to go pull down on it, and then it gets in there the right way. This may take a couple tries. If your thread is too thick, it may not fit into the eye of the needle. We will talk about needles in our next lesson. So I can show you on this giant needle a little bit easier than showing you on the machine. I took my thread, and this is a bigger thread, so hopefully you can see this. And I wet the back of my needle, cut this on the diagonal, I put it in there, and then I let my fingers go around to the back and grab a hold of it and pull it at least a little bit so that I can let go and then pull it with my other hand. And that's how you thread the needle. Let's do our experiment with the tension. Put the presser foot up, pull this thread towards you. See how easily it pulls? Now let's put the presser foot down. When I pull the thread, it's really tight. This is because the tension discs are closed. This keeps a nice even tension on the top thread. When the foot is up, the thread can go between the tension discs. If the foot is down, when we thread the tension area, the thread may sit on top of the discs instead of in between them. You would have terrible stitches if this happened. Putting thread on the bobbin is called winding the bobbin. Putting the bobbin in the machine is called threading the bobbin. The bobbin goes into the bobbin case. There are 2 kinds of bobbin cases. Some machines have what we call a drop-in bobbin. Your machine is what I call a removable bobbin, like this one. Your bobbin will have to be threaded into the bobbin case. In other words, the thread needs to follow a certain pathway to work correctly. The bobbin case also has a tension on it. It is controlled by a little screw. If your bobbin case is inside the machine, you will have to take it out. Open the bobbin case cover, then there's a little latch on your bobbin. Lift up this little latch, and then you're going to pull that bobbin case straight out. As you hold the bobbin latch open, it prevents the bobbin from falling out. If you let the latch close, then the bobbin will come out. When you're done, you do not want to just like rip this thread out of here. You want to cut it right here, or you want to just pull it out very carefully and very slowly, because there is a spring. This little metal thing is a spring, and you don't want to be ripping on it because that will mess up the tension in your bobbin. Lay the bobbin on the table or on the palm of your hand. Flip the bobbin over until it is forming a Q. Q for quality stitches. Hold the bobbin case with the whole side up or facing you. Put the bobbin into the bobbin case. The bobbin should still form a Q with the thread and the bobbin. Turn the bobbin so the side is facing towards you. Find the little slit in the side. The pink arrow is pointing to the slit on this bobbin case. In the photo, you can see that I have pulled the tail of the thread into this slit. Notice that my thumb is holding the bobbin so it does not spin. This makes it easier to thread the bobbin case. The left photo shows the thread has been pulled up until it stops. The red dashes show the thread underneath the metal spring. The right photo shows that the thread is pulled to the right until it is coming out of the hole. You're going to leave 4 to 6 inches of tail coming from the bobbin case. To put the bobbin case into the machine, hold the bobbin case so the latch is open. Put the bobbin into the hook area. See the post that is in the machine? The green arrow points to it. The center hole in the bobbin goes into the post. This bobbin case has a little finger on it. The finger is pointing up. The blue arrow points to it. The latch is pointing to the left side. Place the bobbin case in your hand with the hole facing up. Now put the bobbin into the bobbin case, making sure that it is shaped like a Q, so it's going like this and coming off there. Then I'm going to turn the bobbin case to the side, and there's the little slit. I'm going to put this in the slit. I'm going to pull this up and then over to the right till it goes into that hole. Sometimes it snaps into the hole right there. When you're pulling it under this little spring here to go into the hole, don't yank on it. Always pull gently towards the back because we don't want to ruin our tension right there. Hold the bobbin case by the open latch, and then I'm going to point the finger straight up, and I'm going to find the post that's in here, this post right here. I'm going to put the bobbin on that post with the fingers pointing up, and I'm going to push until it makes a clicking sound. Sometimes it doesn't make that clicking sound, so you need to jiggle this to make sure that it's in there tight. And you can even take your hand wheel and you can turn it back and forth a little bit to make sure that's in there. If the bobbin case is not in your machine tightly, then it will fall out when you start to sew. Use the manual that came with your machine for photos of how to thread it if you've forgotten. Your machine also has some arrows to point where the thread should go. Now it's time for your homework. Show your mentor that you can do the following. Properly thread the top of the machine going through all the guides and tension. Properly thread the bobbin case. Thread the needle. And then 1. Place the thread on the correct spool pin. 2. Does the presser foot need to be up or down for threading the top of the machine? A dull needle, a machine full of lint, and a machine needing oil can cause bad stitches. Next time we will learn a little bit about sewing machine needles, and we will take out the old needle and replace it with a new one. All sewing machines need to be cleaned of lint and dust. We will learn to clean and oil your machine. See you next time. And here's a note for the mentor. For our next lesson, you will need the following: a soft brush to clean the machine, sewing machine oil, sewing machine needles, universal size 80-12 are good, thread, cotton covered polyester or all-purpose thread or 50 weight cotton thread is best. You may have these supplies already, and you can buy them at fabric stores and online. Thank you for helping someone to learn to sew.